Welcome to Rockoli Records, YouTube's best channel for record collectors.
Get ready for Rockoli, bringing music to you. Rockoli, rock and roll, metal and country too. Get ready for the record of the week. Get ready for Rockoli.
So, record of the week. Willie Nelson's Redheaded Stranger. This album is particularly interesting to me because this was Willie's transition from the Atlantic record label to Columbia. In doing this deal, switching over to Columbia, they gave him full creative rights, which means he gets final say on the product, which is very rare. In this deal, Willie recorded these songs. This was his first concept album. He played them for the CEO at the time of Columbia, and they felt like the tracks needed some more production, and Willie disagreed. So I guess they battled that out. Anyway, Willie won in the end because he had full creative rights. So I put this out, and Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain was the single off this album. And it was Willie's first #1 hit. Okay, so the Columbia executive at the time was Rick Blackburn. He later commented that Redheaded Stranger was a hit for all the wrong reasons. It didn't follow the formula, the fashionable mix of the day. There were 1,000 reasons that the record should not be a hit. But the Redheaded Stranger project took on Willie's personality and became a hit for the right reasons. Because it was Willie Nelson. It was Willie's statement. Anyway, I picked this record up, and man, it sounds great. If you've never given Willie a listen and looking for a good place to start, I think the Redheaded Stranger is a great album. I also think the Stardust album is another good one. So in this segment, I share with you an album where I have at least 2 copies and discuss what I like about each and which one I like the best. And this is my opinion, and I'd love to know yours. So if there's another copy out there that I don't have that you recommend, please share in the comments below. Let's talk about Supertramp's Breakfast in America. Released in 1979, it had the big hit The Logical Song and the other big hit Take the Long Way Home. Huge album for them. I think it's their best selling album to date. And although I prefer the album before this, Crime of the Century, I think 1974, this album is still really good. And what I have here is just a US pressing on the AM Records label, and it was one that I inherited from my parents. Cover is it's not thin. What's neat is that it's kind of got this orange inner on the jacket, which you don't see too often, but a nice little detail on that, and a decent sounding record. But Mobile Fidelity recently reissued Supertramp's Breakfast in America, and if you don't know, Mobile Fidelity is an audiophile label. What they do is they go back, they get the original master tapes for the record they're going to repress. They do all analog from start to finish, half-speed master, and they try to get the best possible sound they can from those master tapes. This is the version to own. Ultimate pressing right here. Now, I haven't heard every single pressing. I believe Discogs, which if you don't know is an excellent resource for looking up pressings. A little note here. Yeah, there's 236 different pressings of this album. Now that includes cassettes and CDs. And I haven't listened to all of them. But comparing it to, like I said, the standard US pressing, this is worth every penny. Right now, it's $35, which I know most reissues are around $20, $25, and then for 2 LPs, then you start getting $35, $40. And this is a single LP, but you get a super thick beautiful gatefold jacket. Show you. You have all the lyrics in there. And just, it's gorgeous. Really gorgeous. And, 180 gram vinyl, which, based on my research, it doesn't have any impact on the audio quality. Mainly people say it's kind of a gimmick to get people to rebuy records. But they do say that, and I found this to be true too, they're less likely to warp. But I've found that if they are warped, they're more difficult to deal with than a regular sized record. You can flatten out with like a record weight, or it not be so impactful. But anyway, that's for another video. If you got a banged up copy of this album, you like this album, and you want to get an upgrade copy, Mobile Fidelity's recent reissue, highly recommended. In this segment, I want to talk about a gem, an album that maybe doesn't get a lot of praise or was overlooked at the time. Maybe it's from a well-known band, but they're a lesser-known album from them, something like that, is what I consider a gem. It's something, is great but hidden, that kind of thing. So I picked up this album, Fastway's Eat Dog Eat. They're a 1980s British hard rock band, and they were formed by Fast Eddie Clarke of Motorhead. This was their 7th studio album, and it was released in November of 2011. It didn't receive much attention. I think at that time, hard rock really wasn't in the mainstream. Since then, it's kind of become a beloved hard rock album over the past couple years, and it was released 21 years after their previous album, Bad Bad Girls. Eat Dog Eat features a brand new lineup, including new vocalist Toby Jepson, previously of a band Little Angels and Gun. Now, I think the production and engineering on this album are fantastic. I think the lead singer Jepson has a strong, nice, pure rock vocal. This would turn out to be Fastway's final studio album, as we all know, Fast Eddie Clarke passed away 7 years later in January 2018. Just a really cool, really good album that recommend you give a listen. Now it's time for a segment, Help Me Like Them. This week's band is Van Halen. Everything about this band I should like. Clean, powerful vocals, amazing, excellent guitar work, and I listen to it, and I don't know, something just doesn't click with me, and I don't know what it is. I grew up after they were big, but I like a lot of bands before, during, and after them. I don't know what it is, or maybe I just haven't given them a close enough listen. So like I said, I've heard the radio hits, Running with the Devil, I think I've heard Eruption. I'm sure I'm missing some that I've heard. If you have any advice, help. If you just give me an album, song, if you're a super fan, what should I know about them that might help me pique my interest more, or understand where they're coming from, give me perspective on their music. But anyway, let me know in the comments, and I'll check it out. So, in this segment, talk about a band I love that people love to hate on. And that band, for me, one of them anyway, Avenged Sevenfold. Avenged Sevenfold, I don't know how you would describe their earlier music. I'm not really good on subgenres, but originally they did screaming type vocals, very heavy music. I don't know if it was like metalcore, or I don't know. But on City of Evil, this album, they switched to clean vocals, and They got a lot of hate from that, from their original fans, but this album really catapulted them into the limelight with the song Backcountry, and I don't know what it is, I just love it. Now, I think a lot of people think this band's really cheesy. They all have, you know, stage names that kind of is off-putting for people, I think. What I like about this album, what I like about Avenged Sevenfold, is they're a hard rock metal band, but regardless of the genre you put them in, you know, M. Shadows, the lead vocalist, has a very nasally, raspy voice with an edge that I really like. Sinister Gates, the guitar player, amazing riffs, amazing melodies, just incredible guitar work. Now, criticism of his, the tone of his guitar, he could have a better tone. I'll admit that. But fantastic guitar playing, riffs. Now, they have been doing this series where they go back and they listen to these older tracks and talk about, they break down the track and talk about how they made those sounds and came up with things. And Sinister Gates talks about how on this album it was really built in the studio, a lot of his guitar work. He said he legitimately couldn't play, but he created it in the studio and then learned how to play it. And I just thought that was really cool of just being, I mean, what's he got to lose at this point? He's a big rock star, but just saying that, like, you know, he got really focused and creative in the studio, making these elaborate riffs and chord changes and things like that, but had to teach himself how to play it. I just thought that was really cool of him to admit. Self-titled album, and I really like all of them. This is a cool one, Records for Day, live album, some cool tracks. They cover like Pantera and some other folks on there, really cool. This was, I think this is still one of their biggest albums, Nightmare. And this is the first album without their original drummer, the Rev, which amazing drumming on these albums. He passed away, and this is the first one without him. But he had still written a couple of the songs, and they still recorded him. And this one, I really like this one. It probably gets the most flack of all their albums. The most common thing I hear is like a Guns N' Roses ripoff. But I love the production on this, love the sound. This vinyl version sounds really, really good. It's probably the best sounding out of all of their vinyl records or pressings of their albums. And I don't know, I like the tracks on here. And I like that they did a different cover, a vinyl version versus the CD version. And then the final one, and my favorite Avenged Sevenfold album, is their most recent. And I have the deluxe version of The Stage. And I don't know if you resonate on camera, but there's like a little, what do you call it, lenticular cover. I think they go in a really like progressive rock direction on this album. It's just a really interesting compositions. I think another criticism of theirs is vocals are, not only are the vocals themselves an acquired taste, I suppose, their songs tend to have vocals front to back. Now on this album, there's a little more space in between the vocals, but they still pack them on there. But again, I like the vocals. I think if you didn't like their earlier work or you haven't listened to them, I think give their album The Stage a listen, and I think you'll be surprised. It's really, really good. So that's it for this week. I'd love to know your thoughts on the albums we discussed. If you have recommendations for future videos, any gems or anything you've been listening to that you just can't seem to stop listening to, let me know. Hit subscribe if you like what you see, and hopefully I'll see you next time.